and we're going live. And this music is going to fade out when I play it, just so you know.
Okay.
Give it like 20 seconds once it starts playing.
All right.
We're just waiting for our theme song to start playing.
I was going to say, is it playing? Am I not just not hearing it?
It is not playing. It says going
Okay.
live. We might just have to say if it doesn't want to cooperate, and I can add it in post.
Fair enough.
Oh,
We'll do it in
maybe.
post. Look at all the dancing. We've got a dancing on the field. Now we've got the sound. Now it's our turn. Welcome, everybody. It's a Thursday lunch hour Padres hot tub. We are live on YouTube for our group therapy weekly show. We are live with our patrons on our Riverside platform where they can jump in and be a part of the show going forward as well. Thursday, September 21st, high noon. Craig Elston, Chris Reed, Rafi Cantor here with you. Gentlemen, it is great to see you all on what will certainly be a glorious show as the Padres are winning. What are we talking about? The Padres are winning. Padres are great. What's the matter? Let's just say cool and move on. Group
It's
therapy
June.
over.
Everybody's happy. 7-game winning streaks.
If I had to guess on like March 31st, if I just had given you guys a dartboard, when will the Padres have their first 5-game winning streak? Like, where do you think you would have put your dart down to win the bet?
Probably straddling that Pirates series where the Pirates swept them.
Yeah, I was going to say when they played the Royals at home.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they dropped 2 of 3 to the Royals at home?
Yep.
I would have said somewhere in that bridge. And that was, I think, the second week of May.
That's exactly where I would have put mine too.
Yep.
I would have put it somewhere around the second week of May. That was all part of my little narrative that they were going to get off to a struggling start. Tatis would come back. They'd continue to struggle. And then they would click around the second week of May and they'd get onto a rush where they were the best team in baseball. Turned out it was the second week of September instead.
About the third.
Yeah. Whoopsie daisy. But now rolling. 7 straight wins, 9 to go to get to a good solid maybe 1 in 4 chance of making the playoffs.
Zips had it higher than that today. They had it at 1 in 3.
Wow.
Wait,
well, it's all about the Cubs.
Yeah, Zips. Dan Samorski.
Said a 1 in 3 chance to make
if
the
they
playoffs?
win every single game.
Oh, got it. Okay, I missed that very important part.
Yeah.
The qualifier.
To win with 84 wins is the key. We have a magic number, or a tragic number. It's 6.
Yeah.
Our tragic number is 6.
And that's any other team's wins, right? Any other wild card?
No, it's the Cubs.
Just the Cubs. Okay, cool.
So the tragic number against the Diamondbacks is 5, and the tragic number against the Cubs is 6. But the Cubs is the only team you need to worry about
because
the Diamondbacks already have 81 wins.
Yeah, they're done.
So they're going to win 3 more games the rest of the season. Like that's pretty likely. So it's the Cubs you need to worry about. And it's a grand total of 6. So if they win 6 games, it doesn't matter what we do. But if any combination within, that's where the Padres live. Those are the tragic numbers or the happy numbers, depending on your point of view.
Well, we also have the Marlins and the Reds sandwiched in between there too. So like we have tragic numbers with them as well. They're a little bit further down the list. But lest we forget that there are other teams, and the Giants, of course, are in there. But in order for the Padres to even be in the conversation, they would have to sweep the Giants when we play them next week, which would take the Giants are the ones at the top.
Yeah, it's just that yes, we have to leapfrog them all too. But like if we get to 84 or 83 wins, you have to just presume that that's going to be good enough to get by those teams. Just like you said, it will have to be good enough to get by the Giants. It'll have to be good enough to get by the Marlins and the Reds. And then the question is, that still doesn't mean anything. All you're doing is lowering your draft order as you get better than these teams one after the other. Only thing that matters is that red line after 6. So, right now the Cubs are on the red line. That's the team you look at. But hey, come on. As the old saying goes, one bite at a time.
Oh,
So, you got to win Friday or nothing matters. You got to win Saturday. You got to win Sunday. So just win Friday. And who is it? Is it Martinez Avila or is it Waldron Cauldron next up?
Let's find out.
Martinez, according to my fantasy baseball team, since I added nothing dummy, but I have an amazing offense and I need those strikeouts, so I added Nick Martinez, and it said Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, Martinez is going Saturday. Waldron is going tomorrow on Friday. I mean, listen, Waldron's posting up that 5.16 ERA, but Dakota Hudson has a 5.12 ERA, so it's going to be a shootout. Like, two guys completely level. The Cardinals, it should be said, were actually just mathematically eliminated yesterday. So they are now completely out of it, have nothing to play for. That is very intriguing to me as a Padres fan, but we'll see who shows up.
I mean, it's great for the veterans because it means they showed up at a steakhouse tonight and probably a golf course today before the steakhouse tonight. And they're going to be feeling great for tomorrow's game. The other thing about getting eliminated is a bunch of young guys who really want to play hard and do well and win will be stepping into the lineup, while some of those guys, let their foga de chao and settle in their belly and just enjoy a view from the bench. So, the Cardinals haven't had anything to play for since June, essentially, and they're a perfect matchup, and that's why we're even bothering to consider this much. I mean, if you won the next 3, that'd be 10 games, and that would officially get us past the threshold that we all agreed was something that we would require to take this team seriously once again. So right now I'm still laughing at them. Ha ha ha, you guys are so cute. You won 7 games in a row, you jerks. I mean, just make it look better. But what do you think about, and here's what's happening, guys. We're going to be welcoming in over the course of the hour various patrons who have checked in that are a part of the membership of this Padres Hot Tub community. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub if you'd like to get involved and support what we do. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Our opening is just $5 a month, our opening level, and it gets you inside our Discord, where essentially that's probably worth 2-3 times the value right there in and of itself. So if you'd like to support us, please do. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. And those are the folks who have kind of the backdoor pass to come up on stage and join us and comment as well. We started off talking about the team playing well because, I mean, hey, the team's playing well. They've won 7 in a row. We don't want to just jump into a doomy, gloomy article. But as we did last week when Kevin Acey's article dropped, we've had a couple more extra days to digest everything that Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal put out in The Athletic. But we're going to do, at the start of this show, a dive through what we thought were some of the big pull quotes and takeaways from the Lin Rosenthal Athletic article. And then we'll have to ask the question, who else can write a slam piece on the Padres so that we can continue to propel this win streak forward? I mean, who's next in off the top rope? I need to know.
It has to be AJ Cassava, but he works for the team, so his target is going to have to be really kind of asymmetrical. He's going to have to be like Bobby Cressy has killed the vibes at Petco Park.
How dare you?
Look in. Bobby Cressy speeds on the way lane, even though it's just him.
These are lies and slander. Hey, Bobby Cressy, by the way, and not for nothing, is this week's Have a Drink guest. We're recording tomorrow.
I did not know that.
So he'll be able to address these allegations directly.
Oh, no.
And we'll have round 2.
Oh.
Maybe we'll have a new expose.
I didn't even print my journalist card out yet, and it's gotten taken away.
Yeah, don't even bother with the toner. It's not needed at this point. Yeah, right. There's no one left. But let's discuss what Dennis Lin had in The Athletic. This is something we, I think, all anticipated, probably anticipated for this time of year. It was about this time in 2021. And I didn't think that I thought that it was a very good article for people who don't follow the Padres.
Yes.
I thought it was a very good article for people who had no idea what's been happening here to spell out a lot of the brick and mortar of the things that have gone wrong for the San Diego Padres. From the standpoint of really delivering a ton of new information, the quotes I've tried to pull for today's show that we'll put up, I think best reflect what I thought was new or evolving information. And the very first thing I want to say before we do any of that is please subscribe to The Athletic, theathletic.com. Great introductory offers. You can support the writing of these writers and of the sports writers as well. You can go to theathletic.com and help support Dennis Lin because we are taking advantage of his work by putting even a quote up about it. So please, theathletic.com, support these guys. I've subscribed to them for years, and I consider it to be, and I know that the Times took over, but it's kind of like the Times of sports writing. You get quality writing on all the big topics. When all this Bears stuff happened, I didn't know what was going on. The Athletic pieces really helped me figure it all out. So check that out. Okay. Disclaimer complete. All right. Let's start with what I thought, guys, was the thesis statement. And it comes right at the top, just like thesis statements are supposed to do. Padres, employees, players, people former and current, speak of deep cultural issues that start near the top of the organization and in some cases filter down to the players. The critical takeaway of the thesis statement is that, hang on, if you only read AC's article, hold on, remember the trickle-down theory. These cultural issues start at the top and filter down. It's not starting in the clubhouse and rotting the club from the bottom up. Most important thing I think that they're trying to convey in this article.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the, again, AC's article was sourced by like 30 something people. And they didn't go into an exact quantity for this piece, but they did, go out of their way to mention it was multiple people in the front office, multiple members of the coaching staff. One thing that I thought was interesting in this piece from a tone perspective, there were a lot of former staffers. You'll hear like former clubhouse people, former staffers, as opposed to the AC Manny article, which obviously was much more pertinent to this season. I think it's worth qualifying that because I think there are people who rightfully have pointed out that, hey, these people don't work there anymore. They might have an axe to grind. They might have a bone to pick, like whatever. If you want to read into that, that's fine. But I think we're seeing something of a consensus, and a lot of this stuff was said from a culture standpoint in that Lin article from 2021, which is kind of they link it right at the top of this piece just to say, by the way, we did write a piece 2 years ago. And if you go back and read it, it is kind of like a lot of the same stuff. So both pieces, really the AC piece and this Lin Rosenthal piece, incredible pieces of journalism from very, very different points of view.
Yeah. I mean, right in here, it says more than 24, right? So
yeah,
they're trying to lay out a lot of groundwork. And
it's
I think
24 current and former Padres employees and others in baseball. So he talking to like Tim Kurchin about it and cited him as.
I mean, I guess. I think there's better like big time quotes in this article than there are in the AC article.
Yeah.
Where things are more presented in a passive voice of players are saying this. Nonetheless, institutional failure, poor communication from Preller, lack of feel, a need to outwork everyone or to be seen outworking everyone at the expense, perhaps, of doing things better. The opposite of work smarter, not harder. And the most toxic environment, which led to a pessimistic atmosphere around the team. Now, that one, like vibe feel, check. That checks for all the games I watched in May and June and July and August. A vibe feel that was just kind of absent. So, okay, there's your thesis statement.
let's move on to slide number 2. The middle part of this piece is a really interesting kind of, almost like how Rachel Maddow will start her A block with a story that doesn't seem congruent, and then it spins in. It's like, what's the deal with Don Tricker?
The guy from New Zealand.
Yeah.
As formerly known as.
The New Zealand national softball team performance coach, who was brought in to change the culture, a former Padres coach said. But he was brought in 2017. He's still here. And his job is to ... question mark. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. He turns up in meetings. He takes notes. He walks around. He asks why. Well, why do we do it this way? Why this way and not that way? Why avocados and not a different type of fruit? You know, why do we use tomatoes in sandwiches when we could use banana peels? Yeah, he's asking questions. Where's the Vegemite, mate? I mean, he's asking questions. He's got questions to ask. And I thought this was kind of a weird departure in the story. It's like, okay, they've got this weird dude on staff. Like, the most I'd heard of Don Tricker was his call-ins on Gwintelligence the last couple of episodes, which were extremely funny. And I feel like their Tricker stock has absolutely paid off. But yeah, what is he doing? Why is he there? And why would we have a front office that's got a bunch of guys that we don't know what they're doing or why?
Well, it seems like the quiet part out loud of this all is the article is implying that he's basically just a front office spy that just sits in everything and
yeah, but
reports
you
back
don't
to
have to
AJ
go
Preller.
to New Zealand to find those. You know, you can hire me, AJ. I'm ready.
But it adds to the international kind of mystery of it all. Like,
Okay.
there is something that's clearly Craig, I'm so sorry I'm forgetting his name. Who did you talk to who worked in Taiwanese baseball? And
Gary Myers.
Yes. Gary was not only incredibly intelligent, one of my favorite interviews that this show has ever done, but also he was Australian, and that added something to it for me, where I was like, oh, this guy knows it. Why would a baseball team bring in an Australian dude? Well, he must know something. And there's like something to like, oh, he works with the All Blacks in New Zealand. He must know something. And it's like, actually, it doesn't really. I mean, the part that was jarring to me was like, he does not have a medical background. I'm like, what? He's the performance coach and he doesn't have a medical background? Like, what could possibly be his
He means like performance.
Yeah, right.
He's
he
like
doesn't
the
know
bat-foot
baseball.
guy.
He doesn't know medicine, but he is asking questions in these areas. He's questioning the coaches and the trainers.
John Boy had my favorite bet on this. John Boy was like, so basically he's a toddler. He just goes around going, why? Why that? Why this, AJ? Why this? Why pitching machines? Why so slow?
Yeah, exactly. Why not more?
Can they two pitching machines? Crissy-cross.
So while it's kind of like, okay, it's weird because there's a lot of the article about Don Tricker. To me, this is building up to the next two slides, a secondary aspect of the thesis, which is a disconnect between the front office staff, and the clubhouse staff, leading to an environment where both coaches, manager, and players feel like they have to look over their shoulder in their home sanctum sanctorum. Here's the first part of this. The cold facts. Since 2015, 29 coaches and managers have left. That's not counting those who are here now. That's 29 people who are not here. And that's in a span of 9 seasons. That's kind of wild. Preller constantly pushing for more work, micromanaging in areas that he is not expert at. Wants to be in charge of everything, including things he's not necessarily good at. And it creates a situation where the people who leave, which is the middle paragraph of the pull piece that we're showing you on the screen right now, Several people interviewed for the story describe a lack of coherent message from the top. There's no consistency. Another staffer said, I think the philosophy is get a bunch of athletes. We're just going to out-athlete everyone, out-ability everyone. Okay, well, again, vibe check. Yeah, that sounds like what we've felt and what we've seen. But again, if we switch now to the very next one,
which is kind of contradictory in a way. Or well, I'm sorry, I thought you meant the paragraph.
No, when Preller is in there all the time and he's saying, hey, 100 mile an hour velo machine. Hey, different technique in batting practice. Do this, do that. This is where the flip of it comes. When the Padres fail to win, people around the club say the same hands-on approach fosters a negative environment. A former staff member says he'd never worked in an organization where players dealt with as much veiled criticism. Some Padres coaches throughout Preller's tenure have said they felt nitpicked by the front office. It's hard to be in a situation where you really want to celebrate with people and win with people who when you're not doing well, they're constantly jumping off the boat. They're blaming you for the, mixed metaphor, leak in the raft. Well, maybe they jumped on a raft after jumping off the boat and the raft was leaky.
Raft is a boat.
Sure. I think AJ is not great at recognizing the culture cost of putting his finger on the thumb of the coaching staff. Now, again, mixed metaphor, finger on the scale, thumb on the scale, finger on the thumb. Okay. Nonetheless, this is what I'm taking away from this. When you've got criticism, nitpicking, and negativity from the front office about coaching methods and about things as specific as when are you going to take batting practice? How much are you going to take? At what point is it happening? Well, now when the coaches are trying to put their message in, who do you listen to? And in the very next slide, it's going to say Preller and Melvin, different messages to the team. Well, it all makes sense within that context of you've got a GM who's not just trying to find the next high school shortstop out of Georgia. He's also trying to find the right brand pitching machine to properly set up when the team faces Verlander one day, or left-handed spin machine, and is also critical of the infield drill style and when people are there. And if there's no one that you can trust, if you think that you're going to the coaches and you're getting the absolute message and then you're getting a different message from the guy who gave you your contract, that feels toxic.
Well,
that feels difficult.
There's a couple things that this implies that is new. I think new information that I didn't know. The first is they talk about the velocity machines, saying that Preller is like really high on like having these guys against like these really high-tech, newfangled hitting machines. This is something that I know that I have been wondering if the Padres are using, because other teams using at hitting. This is something that we talked about the San Francisco Giants doing. I'll talk about them later, but matching the arm angle of a certain upcoming pitcher and having guys practice against that. It's how Bryce Harper came back from Tommy John in record time without having a rehab assignment in the minors. He was hitting just against one of these pitching machines. So we were clamoring for them to use it.
Yeah, but he sucked for a month and a half. Don't forget that. He came back and he was balls for weeks.
100%. But teams at the cutting edge are using this, and it was not known if the Padres were amongst the teams.
Well, the Yankees just pulled the plug on it after firing their hitting coach.
So the thing is, though, that I think is important about this is that it's the breakdown between the front office and the coaching staff that's being hinted at, and the coaching staff being close to the players and saying, hey, these guys are gassed. Hey, these guys don't want to do this. And what this team lacks, and something the Giants have, and I'll direct everyone, if you want to listen to more about this, episode 1864 of Effectively Wild, there's a San Francisco Giants coach named Fernando Perez, who's their director. And he comes on and kind of says a lot of shit that I was surprised they were letting him say. And one of the things he talks about is like the Giants in 2021 were made fun of because they had so many coaches. If you look at their team photo, it's an insane amount of coaches. But the theory behind, we have a guy who's there for basically every aspect of the game to explain to the players why these things are important. Why do we use this piece of equipment? Why do we practice in this way? And it's translating everything into a language that is digestible, both for new guys who are coming up and who have been through the system, veterans who might not want to change their ways. And it's very clear that there's no, it's something that we talked about before we hit record. There's no trust in this organization at all. No one trusts anyone. And the breakdown doesn't happen then. And I'll point to, before I turn it back over, key incident. I'm setting the scene. It's 2019. The have just collapsed once again, or I guess this is the first collapse, so to speak. And we're on Twitch with Carlos Asuaje and Will Myers. And Will Myers is talking about Andy making them run all these fucking throwing drills and doing all the stuff. It's September, man, like whatever. And it was attributed as this breakdown between Andy Green and the club. Andy Green was dismissed. Maybe it was AJ Preller that was making him run the throwing drills. It sounds like this is who this guy is. He doesn't appreciate that these people are human beings who play for him. And it goes back to the same idea of the plug and play. Oh, Will Myers is the third baseman. Oh, he's an outfielder. Oh, he's a first baseman. Like, it's like these guys aren't Stratomatic cards, as you have said, Craig. Like, they're human beings. And there's somewhere in the assembly line of making a baseball team, there's a complete breakdown where they're not treated as human beings. They're treated as AI. I don't know, the MLB The Show characters. So, that was brought all up to the front for me.
Well, let's flip to the next slide because it builds right off of that. The workload contributing to a divide between the front office and the coaching staff. Preller's importance of pregame early work on the field and in the cages, but players getting gassed out. This is a Padres clubhouse player quote, active player quote. Sometimes guys run out of gas. I see it. And sometimes the sad part is they see it too. Why don't you make adjustments? I thought this was essentially a direct counter to the start of Kevin Acey's piece from last Friday, which begins with what's supposed to be a dismal scene as Padres early batting practice begins and nobody's out there. And then it ends and every single Dodger runs out there, including Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. And that was used as an intentional written example of lacking culture for the Padres, that the Padres don't have the hard work culture that's set by their leaders because Betts and Freeman were out there, whereas nobody was out there except for Matt Batten and whoever for the Padres. Now, fast forward a week, and this is entirely from the perspective of a coaching staff that's saying, no, we're overworking our players. We're overdoing this. We don't have enough of a bench. We don't have enough of a chance to give guys days off. And then while we're overworking them by starting them every day, we're also getting a push from the front office to overwork them by getting them out there at 2:30 every day as well. And they knew that it was going to burn out the team. This is a narrative that had to come from the coaching office. This had to come from this is Melvin clapping back, essentially. This is the coaching staff and Melvin's perspective of how things go wrong from the top down, as opposed to it's going wrong because they're setting up and the coaches are running out there to do their job, and then none of the players are following them out to the field. It's just amazing. It's the exact same thing, but you write it one way, you write it another way, and it's an entirely different perspective.
Well, that's for the contradiction I wanted to speak to in that previous slide. In one paragraph, it says AJ Preller believes that his players should just out-ability the other teams, and he can just get the talented people on the team, and they're just naturally going to be better. And then the next paragraph, it says AJ Preller tries to make guys prepare too much and tries to get guys out there, and it has his finger on the coaching staff too much. So, like, that's a contradiction. Like, either you trust your guys to go out there and do it, and you hire them, you sign them, you give them the guaranteed contract and the big extension, and you do it, or you're either that micromanaging, or you hire people with the eyes on growing them and teaching them and putting you into them. And I don't really understand the dissonance there. Like, is that AJ's dissonance, where he doesn't understand that you can have this core belief of having ability, but then your behavior and your habits are putting pressure on people in a way that maybe you don't intend, that isn't part of your philosophy, but your actions of going to your coaching staff and trying to micromanage, so to speak. It's just a weird contradiction that happened within a paragraph that lay out two different people in a sense.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the issue of distrust. When you can say that you're trying to build a roster, when you're talking about player acquisition, you're building a roster that you're trying to out ability everyone. So that's kind of a different or nuanced critique. Then you get to, well, we don't have the level of coaches, we don't have the level of analytics that some other
Or
franchises
don't
invest in.
believe in the amount of analytics. Like it's not part of your core philosophy.
Right.
It's part of the ability thing.
But you do have this guy who's leaving you texts every day at 2:30 in the morning. Well, what if we did this? What if we did that? You know, and constantly trying to refine your stuff.
Just
What,
to be, it's not a contradiction within the piece. It's a contradiction of AJ Preller.
right. Why doesn't he have, well, and again, that's why I come back to trust. Where it evens out and it's not contradictory is if you don't trust anyone besides yourself. Because if you don't trust anyone besides yourself, you trust yourself to put together the highest ability roster possible. But then you don't trust anybody else to take that and make it a championship. Even if you give them the reins, you've still got to keep coming in and inspecting those reins and jiggling them about and making sure that the reins are there. And they're like, no, dude, like, just let me do my job. Let me cook.
It reminds me of like those like maybe like 2008 to 2012 tech companies that all like they were like putting ping pong tables and like beer in the office. It was like, oh, look, it's such a cool and chill place to work. And we work so hard and we have a community. But really what it is we want to keep you at the office. We want you to stay there. And we want you to just and so when I hear about Preller, like I think it's like this like, oh, he's like a, you know, interesting, hardworking, like cool. Someone like Peter Seidler is like, this guy's working nonstop. He's excellence. He is working around the clock for me. He's never not thinking about baseball. And how if you're not, and you know, you disconnected, all you have is, you know, Preller and what he's painting for you is kind of like what he's doing and how you're seeing that manifest with texts at 4 a.m. from the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I think it's like, it seems virtuous. We work really hard here. We outwork everyone. And actually, it's toxic, which is what a lot of those tech companies, by the way, ended up being. So I think it's important to just kind of like have about, you know, he's outworking people and et cetera, et cetera. That's really what it's indicating.
Yes. All right. Some saucy quotes, kind of wrapping up the article. And let's just hit a couple of these. Preller, first, an assertion. Preller's relationship with Andy Green and Jace Tingler deteriorating late in their respective tenures. Well, so did their win-loss record. Fair enough. I think that's kind of generally true when you fire someone. Your relationship deteriorates once you're fired.
Yeah, I've heard like Jace Tingler and AJ were good friends, and then they got fired, and now they don't talk. What happened? Well, he got fired.
Right. Actually, that's like literally how it works. But and the back of that said, if not Bomel, who we have said that how many times?
Like you said, this piece was really good for the national audience that isn't following it. I felt like it was just kind of like, all right, a lot of confirmation of shit we've been seeing with our eyeballs, you know, that people are just kind of putting like their explanation on it.
The next one after, if it's not Bomel, then who is it? Who is the player that's saying this? This is. I blame Cronenworth.
I blame him for the AC one.
Yeah. Who is it? Is this Cronenworth? Is this Grisham? Who is saying
Soto.
this quote?
That's all, you know, just my little woo tinfoil.
Well, he's one of the four. It can't be any of the four.
Well,
it could the suggestion the Padres have no leader. One, I mean, I guess. Or there's four and they can't figure out which one it's supposed to be, and therefore none of them are doing it. So it's like, who's the guy here? I mean, I guess Xander could have said that. speaking of himself, kind of
He's throwing the scent.
person-y-ish.
But think
Yeah.
of the or. Like maybe let's just, this is a theoretical. The person talking, giving the quote is like, I thought I might be the guy. Or, maybe there's 4 and we can't figure out which one it's supposed to be, and therefore none of them are doing it. Like this could be it could be anybody, Craig.
No,
Matt
it can't be
Carpenter?
anybody. It's got to be a position player. All right. It's got to be a position player.
Why?
It's not Ha-Sung Kim. We could straight rule him out. All right. It's not Austin Nola. He's here. He's not here. He has a broken face. It's not Gary Sanchez. They didn't speak to Gary through his interpreter. This is not that is not correct. All right. Who it's Grisham or it's Cronenworth?
Or it's Carpenter.
They've both been here so long. Yeah, it would have to be a new person.
Or it's Carpenter.
Carpenter, yeah,
I
he's
would
a
say it's
national
maybe
guy.
Carpenter because he doesn't have as much skin in. He's already had a career. He's kind of like has the perspective to like. I don't think it's Campusano because like the dude's like basically a rookie, and it's like he doesn't really know what other clubhouses are like. You know what I mean? And I think like, you can say whatever you want about Carpenter, but Yachty knew how to run a clubhouse. Okay?
Guys, we are miscomprehending this quote. We're miscomprehending this quote. It says to the suggestion, the Padres have no leader. One team member said that piece laid out in the beginning that they spoke to other team members, people outside the Padres organization. Or there's 4 and they can't figure it out which one is supposed to be. And therefore, once one of them are doing it, it's like, who's the guy here? Seems like it's somebody speaking outside the clubhouse.
Yeah. Either way, if this is a member of the active starting lineup, you shouldn't have given.
There's
Dennis
so
Lin
much
this
stuff
quote.
that shouldn't be said in this from like posited from players. There's a lot of stuff that their source is kind of a.
Here's the next one. All right. Soto puts his name on something we've heard him say. What good offense is, go up there, try and put the ball in play, try to bring that guy in instead of hit 500-foot homers.
Here's the quote.
This
is the one I was talking about.
Yeah, this is a separate quote. We've talked about it, addressed it. Everyone's aware of it. We're trying. For me, it's almost like these guys don't really know how to do it.
That sounds like Matt Carpenter.
That's Carpenter.
Yeah.
And that's some shit you shouldn't say. Like, if I'm a member of the team and I'm reading this, I am looking at everybody's face. Like, sitting in my locker room being like, all right, who's the one that says, I don't know how to hit friggin' situationally?
By the way, if I was doing a ranking of Padres situational hitting, Juan Soto is not in the upper half. He's not in the upper half. Like, I always think it's funny when he's the one who makes these quotes and then pulls a ground ball to second base in his very next big situation, because he's trying to hit a 500-foot homer. But I think we may have found the mole, and it's Matt Carpenter. And now, what do you feel about leaving him in the clubhouse now, AJ? You could have shut that down quite a while back.
Next year.
He's set to make $6 million or whatever
it is.
Yeah, I think he's going to have some more hip inflammation, more like lip inflammation. Thanks to everybody who's hanging out, by the way, on YouTube. We've been just kind of going through that pretty directly, so we haven't been interacting with the chat as much. And I see folks going, "Oh, you're laggy, Rafey." Well, we know, Rafe. We know Rafe. Rafe knows he's laggy as well. Nonetheless, thanks to everybody for being here, hanging out with us. I think we hit just about everything out of this article. The very last thing I'd just say is please go back if you haven't and watch, if you're on YouTube, our show from Monday night, because essentially the end of the article, that's what we were talking about the day before it came out, in terms of the television contract, the issues in the future, where are the revenue streams coming from, the whispers about the Padres having solvency issues, all of that is in our previous show. And I don't want to have to retreat and go through all of it once again. But nonetheless, I thought it did make us feel, Chris, pretty prescient as a show.
Yeah, dude, that was one of our best shows in terms of like other stuff that came out a little afterward that had just kind of not repeated because they aren't listening to our show, but it kind of shown that we've had our fingers on the pulse of what our eyeballs have been seeing because that's our access, just what we can see because we watch the team every friggin' day. And you said his name earlier, Trent Grisham. You want to talk about a possible malcontent in the clubhouse? Remember, I want to go back to when he bunted. I did a little breakdown on his bases loaded bunt,
Yes. Ugh.
which was one of the most frustrating moments of the season. Not a single person in the dugout reacted. Like there were still, there were no claps for Juan Soto crossing the plate. There was nothing. It was like they were statues. No reaction whatsoever. You look at the team today, Jose Azokar playing, Jurickson Profar doing. I'm not saying definitively, but we know there are guys that aren't meshing with the team. And once Grisham's been out of the lineup, it's weird that once Jose Azokar's here, the vibes are good, and the team is clapping for each other and looking supportive. Sorry.
Hey, we got a question in the text chat on YouTube from Charlie Long saying, what was a more damning article, 2021 Lin Rosenthal or 2023 Lin Rosenthal? And my answer would be 2021 because I think that's where a lot of this information came to us for the first time. And then 2022 is a little bit of the win mask that makes you say, okay, maybe everything's better. There's so much money flowing. How could you ever be sad? Because the spigots are running green. And now 2023's article is a little bit more of a all-encompassing confirmation of things haven't been well. And here's some of the elements of what hasn't been well along the way. But that environment, it was there in 2021 and it's here now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you go to the comments of the article on the Athletic website. There's a lot of people that are just like, what a fantastic article. This is great. And it's just clear to me that a lot of people didn't necessarily know this about the Padres organization. These are like national people that were brought in because Rosenthal is in the byline and they're getting their kind of first exposure to this. I think the difference obviously between 2023 and 2021 is the expectations that were on this team. There was a question from Caleb, the booty hippie, in our Discord who said, I can't call in, but here's one. How does this season compare to the other disappointing seasons like 2008, 2015, and 2021 for y'all? It doesn't come close. This is the most disappointing. Like it just, even like 2021's collapse, I think if you were to look at them on their face and like in a vacuum, was by far and away a worse collapse. They were at 90 something % playoff odds in the end of July, beginning of August, like in terms of an utter and complete unlikely collapse, that one was worse. But in terms of like an overall season, the hype, the talent, the expectations, and also the results to a certain extent where you're saying that like they actually did have great underlying performance. They had terrible situational luck / performance. I think some of it's luck and some of it is clearly mental. Chris, I know you had something you want to bring up that Tatis said in AJ Cassavell that I think indicates something to that. I'll while you pull that up, I just think that this is so much more. Craig, you've always said that this is the most consequential season in Padres history. And I think, we're going to find out. We're going to find out because when the Padres don't make the playoffs, I'm saying when, not if, because I need X'd out in my mind because that seems to be the only way this team works is you have to bully them or run an expose or shit on them. So when the Padres don't make the playoffs, then we will see if this was indeed the most consequential season ever.
There was something before the Tatis thing, but this was the quote. What lesson exactly, Fernando? Well, it taught us a lot as a group. It means cut the eyewash. Just come in as a group knowing what you need to do. Go out there, play the game, make yourself feel like a kid again. This is the hardest game in the world. Adding that pressure is just overwhelming. That quote right there is like the most grown-up thing I think Tatis has said in his Padre tenure. I think it's extreme. I think it's an admission. A personal one, but that I believe to the other players too. Right? If he's talking about disappointment and expectations. That's what Fernando's talking about too. The expectations were overwhelming. The Fan Fest parade, the championship parade for Fan Fest led these guys to feel like if they didn't perform, if things didn't go perfectly, uh, you know, it wasn't going to work. What I wanted to point out was I think this is more I think 2021 was worse. Um I was more disappointed in 2021. And I think when they started writing this article, because it didn't happen overnight, this is a few months in the works,
Of course.
they thought the season was going to be in a different place when they published it. Like, I don't think they would have thought the Padres would have a 7-game winning streak when they posted this. I don't think we would have seen the team gelling, kind of showing chemistry and cohesion for the first time all year. I don't think they thought that was going to happen when this piece got pushed down the tracks. So it's hard, dude. Like they brought up these young, versatile guys with energy, like so many teams in baseball did this year, and they started playing. And they shelved the dinosaurs and the guys that AJ thought were going to be these free agent veteran presences that didn't bring that same energy or that same hunger, and they're suffering for it. The game is changing. You need stars to win championships, but you need youth and energy and hunger to win during the season.
Yeah. Expectation, the thief of joy, something we've talked about a lot, but just any admission of that from a player, that's one of those things I've been waiting to hear. Like the pressure was overwhelming. Pressure is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Pressure can be overwhelming in so many circumstances. I'm sure all of us in the audience have a moment in our life where pressure has gotten to us that we wouldn't want to admit it, but it did. And think about that combined with having every single thing you do dissected by Sports Center and for God's sake us and everyone else in between, just 40,000 fans there to judge you every single day, statistics that are attached to your name. The pressure is overwhelming. So I really do appreciate that from Fernando Tatis Jr. It led me to something I wanted to mention too. Did you guys see Xander Bogaerts talking yesterday? Because
I think it was in the same piece.
Yeah, talking essentially about like, too little, too late, and he's like, yeah, but we needed to win. Like we needed to feel it. We needed to know that it could happen. And I know I just said yesterday on the postgame show, and I'll repeat it: 1 year does not carry over to the other. What you do in September doesn't carry over to April. If it did, the Padres would have been champions throughout the 2010s for their great Augusts and Septembers after they had, fallen 25 games under 500. But, one way where it's different is this team, the core players are coming back. They're all coming back.
Except for our Cy Young.
Right. But like Xander's coming back. So he had gone a whole miserable year without ever feeling good once in a Padres uniform. I mean, imagine how horrible that would be to finally leave and go back home and be like, I hated the whole thing. So at least having that good feeling gives him at least something to put a positive association to the work he's going to do in the offseason, as opposed to it only being built around negative of we failed in expectations. I didn't live up to my contract, all of that. The positivity of maybe we can come together as a team is something they can build on. Normally, I would completely shit on the idea. But when I heard the way Xander said it, I'm like, especially for him,
I got the quote.
I get it.
The quote is, all the that's Tatis's. I think it would be worse if we never found it. It's still bad. It took so long, but at least we figured it out what was in there, and we're kind of showing it right now. This is what everyone expected. This is what we expected to play like, this level of baseball. It's really tough that it's this late. And Craig, I don't know if you've said this on our show yet. In your last message in the Discord before we started recording, really, like, it paints the picture of the larger, like what we should be thinking about when we see these competing pieces from AC, local, and the national one and where they're coming from.
Absolutely. And we talked about it a little bit within the middle of the perspective of talking about infield practice, right?
Oh, okay.
And in one framing, it's just, a player's lack of want to, and in another framing, it's an overzealous front office putting the stamp on tired players. But I would say just broadly and widely, what you got from Kevin Acey's piece was the front office's view of what's gone wrong this year. And they would love to put it on the guy that they're giving the most money. Manny Machado did not play well enough. He wasn't a good enough leader for this team. Our clubhouse was disconnected. They didn't try hard enough. They didn't want it enough. And that's a real bummer. But, they're really high paid players. We got the best players. They didn't want it enough. And look at Manny. He's the centerpiece of it. And if he doesn't care enough, how could anyone else? That's the AC perspective. The front office, what they'd like you to know before season ticket renewals. And what has AC's number one antagonist been since he's been on the beat? Manny Machado. 100%.
Since his first bad season, he showed
since
up with all
2019.
this money and was arrogant.
Since
and,
2019,
yeah.
they have not been eye to eye. Okay. Does that mean it's a biased piece? No. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about Dennis Lin. Dennis Lin has, ever since September of 2021, fallen out with who? AJ Preller and the Padres front office. And what you got in Lin's piece was the clubhouse's view of what went wrong this year. Look what they did up there. Look what happened up there. Look at the problems we had down here from up there. And you got the manager's perspective. You got the coach's perspective. But that's down looking up. Acey's was up looking down into the clubhouse, into what's going on. Neither is wrong for having done what they did, right? I'm happier having both than having neither, but they should not be pitted against one another as only one can be correct. They can both be correct if you understand that they're both coming from different perspectives, and then you adjust how you filter it for those perspectives. Rafi, you said we have a caller before we get out of here.
Yeah.
We sure do. Let's see if he's there. Chaloa.
Hey, it's our buddy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Got my glasses on today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for conforming.
Those
yeah,
are
I
the ones you
appreciate it.
use when you're using the wood saw behind you, but I appreciate you putting them on nonetheless.
Chris,
a
we
problem.
got the
Oh, no, it's not
clubhouse
a problem.
perspective. We got the front house perspective. We got the WGA perspective. We got the SAG-AFTRA perspective. We got the Elston perspective.
It's true. Yeah, you get a lot of guilds represented here. I almost feel like I'm at a Renaissance fair or a Renaissance fair.
I need a turkey leg for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about earlier. There's just been this attempt, I feel like, by the front office, and whether or not they see it as a problem. I mean, obviously they do. They bring in these guys and they're trying to microwave a culture. They're bringing in these veterans that everyone respects, right?
Yeah. Microwave. Great way to put it, dude.
Yeah, and I don't think microwave right over the right shoulder. I don't think that's how it works. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think guys just step into an organization and all of a sudden they are the clubhouse leader, right? And so I think it hurts you in kind of two ways there. One, like these guys aren't going to do that thing because like you have to kind of get acclimated to a organization before you can take on a leadership role. But it also stunts other guys who can be the leaders, right? Like Tatis, he's going to have 5 years in next year. He could be a leader. Like, so those guys that come up, Iggy, Rosario, the guys that are coming up from El Paso, they can look to guys like Tatis, that have been around the organization for a while and see them as a leader. And that allows, that's going to allow Tatis to grow into a leadership role because nobody's really born a leader. I mean, I guess except Jesus. But, so but I think we're not giving our guys the chance to become leaders. And I think it's hurt the team and it's created a vacuum where there's no leaders, right? And we just all look at Manny like, he's not a leader, but maybe he's just not, he needs to grow into, or maybe it's not going to be him. Maybe it's going to be one of the other guys.
That's a great point, dude. And I do want to point out that maybe the front office agrees with you and might be trying something a little different. That's their stated justification for their promotion to everybody to AA, to play in the minor league playoffs, so that everybody can get familiar with each other, start to win together. So maybe, like, I think those are great points. And the new idea in my head is maybe they're learning, which is all I've ever hoped.
I think that's what we all. I mean, that's the you read the Lin piece and it feels like an echo or like a remix of the 2021 piece, and you're like,
Yes.
is anybody learning?
Yeah.
But hopefully they are. And just the last thing I want to say is, as we wind down here and we get to our 0.2 and maybe it grows to like a 2% chance at some point. Once we get eliminated, there's just certain things I don't want to hear. There's a quote I don't want to read, and it's "We ran out of time."
We ran out of time.
It's like 162 fucking games, man. You didn't run out of time. You wasted your time. There's just a.
That's
just
an
feel like we're
MJ
gonna get that
quote,
stuff.
isn't it? I never lost a game. I always ran out of time.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I can tell you how it's going to be manipulated this year. It's going to be, well, they had the WBC and all our
Yeah.
guys were gone. So if, we didn't have those 10, 15 games in spring training together, and if you move up that clock, well, then we're in the conversation. Go fuck yourself. That's not
Yes,
what
sir.
it's like
Yes, sir.
same thing that was trotted out by, they're not used to the pitch clock because in the WBC they didn't have it. They're professional baseball players. Like they can. It's this infantilizing of these guys that they can't take it, that they can't handle it. It's their job. Like, what do you mean? Like, they absolutely can handle it. So this is I don't know what the Yu-Gi-Oh trap card that we're playing right now. If WBC or time is mentioned, where it's completely nerfed, not effective.
All right, thanks guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
I
man.
just love, you bet. I love how gaming talk is just slowly infiltrated in as we prepare to transition to a winter of being a nothing but Magic the Gathering. But apparently, Pods Above Replacement is going to be a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. If I'm going to be anything, I'm going to be an Unmatched podcast. That's for sure. Still trying to play that first online game. I think I've got a dude in Germany ready to play me after we finish this. Show right here. And by the way, if you're a fan of Unmatched and you'd like to play me, just let me know. All right. Well, listen, thanks to everybody who's been in the chat and checking us out. I was just reading through Astropolitica. Thank you for the kind words, for even a Dodger fan who enjoys the analysis that we do here on our little Padres podcast. Appreciate everybody who has been chatting. HW says we should do a Pogs podcast. I don't know. PHT D&D from Jarin. Now, okay, that could be a group therapy of sorts.
Freaking Clamorth the Barbarian is averaging 6.3 hit point damage per turn. Well below his expected norms.
Yeah.
I mean, is AJ Preller chaotic lawful? Where is he on the behavior chart? I gotta figure it out. He's not chaotic evil. Is he chaotic evil?
No, I think he's chaotic neutral. I think evil implies motivation, like he has an evil motivation. I don't think he has evil motivation. I don't even know if AJ Preller knows why he does the things he does.
No.
He's just chaotic, you know what
And
I
it's
mean?
different
Right.
from year to year. Like I still feel like 2020 was like, dude had been up for 20 hours and you don't make good decisions there. And he's like, no, I'm working. I'm using my work ethic. It's 4 a.m. and I'm texting Jerry DePoto, who's fucking sleeping. And Jerry DePoto wakes up with like, wait, he wants Austin Noah for those guys? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Great stuff, guys. Well, hey, check it out if you didn't. The post-game show that Chris and I did yesterday, much more focused on literally specifically what's happening with the team. I wanted to say it one more time, though, real quick. You know why the offense is better? Jake Cronenworth's not in it.
Oh,
And Gary Sanchez is not in it. And I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kidding. The evolution from Austin Nola automatic out every time to Gary Sanchez random homer will strike out in 10 out of 10 important situations to Luis Campusano hits 300
Hits home runs on his knees.
in a league that hits 240. He's hitting 308. He can loop one over the second baseman's head. He can line one into the gap, and he can pop one over the fence too. There's more than one way to hit the ball. It's incredibly exciting. You know what? Garrett Cooper's been better than Jake Cronenworth. He's been better. He's been a better hitter. And just moving the DH around or throwing it behind Manny has been better than throwing Carpenter and Cruz into the lineup. Just tossing a Rosario and a Batten into the lineup is better than playing Matt Carpenter and having all of your position players position play every single day. So by getting worse, the Padres offense got better.
And talking about learning, can we please learn this? Matt Carpenter, Nut Cruz, Luke Voigt, Mitch Moreland, going out and finding some older, beefy dude who, doesn't play anywhere on the field to be your DH is a bad idea. The league isn't doing it. Everywhere around the league, that is going away, just like closers, just like one-inning closers, because the versatility and the optionality of just having talented guys who can play the matchups is the way to go.
Campy, full-time next year.
Yes, sir.
It's
It's gonna be a beautiful thing.
It's a difference maker for this lineup.
Stay healthy,
and,
Campy.
And you don't need, if you trade Soto, you don't need another 3 true outcome behemoth. We're chock full. You need balance in a lineup.
Jung-Hoo Lee.
And I'm telling you, you need balance in a lineup, and part of that balance is not having everyone be the exact same profile hitter. So Tatis raises his average. Campusano replaces Sanchez full-time and whatever was left of Nola. There's ways to make this thing
Let's
better.
run it back, boys.
Hey,
Just
they
don't
said
fire
it.
Bomel.
They said it in the article. You could run this back and they could win 100 games next year. And that's what they're going to tell us.
I'm Team Bomel. Thank
so
you,
hard.
everyone. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Now I need like a Dan Rather finish to, or Julie Chen Moonves at the end of Big Brother when she always says love one another, and then Dan Rather would be like, for everyone here at CBS News, I'm Dan Rather. Courage. So for everyone here at Padres Hot Tub.
Like that's the way the cookie crumbles sort of thing.
Can I give you my least favorite one because it's a baseball podcast and Padres fans will know this is complete bullshit? It's Buster Olney's. And today will be better than yesterday.
Yeah, not every day.
No. Definitely fucking isn't Buster.
For everyone here at Padres Hot Tub, I'm Craig Elston. Have a great weekend. Don't you dare fucking fire Bob Melvin.